Hello, everyone. It's such a pleasure for me to be in front of this wonderful audience. I've been waiting for this moment for so long to talk to you about a species that you have probably never heard before. It's my favorite wildlife animal, the African manatee. You probably heard about the Florida manatee. Well, the African manatee look pretty much similar to the African manatee look pretty much similar to the Florida manatee. However, they live different reality and challenges that I'm going to unfold here. African manatee are so gentle. They are shy and elusive. They tend to run away from human presence. And this is because they have experienced they have seen human as a negative threat. Fishermen have been hunting them for so long. So they have learned the hard way. And they also live in a habitat that is very cloudy. It's difficult to see them in the wild. So this is my best manatee picture. Well, many people ask me, what is the difference between the Florida manatee and the African manatee? As I said, they look pretty much similar, but I'm going to highlight here two features that distinguish those two separate species. The African manatee is a little bit smaller than the Florida manatee. And this is because the Florida manatee live in an area where there is winter season, the water is very cold. And because the Florida manatee cannot buy a jacket like you, they cannot afford it, so they need to have this extra layer of fat that help them to thermoregulate. The African manatee, however, live in a very tropical area where the water is warm all year long, so they don't need that much, so much layer of fat. The other difference is on the mouth opening orientation. African manatee have a mouth opening orientation more forward, adapted to feed on the surface or above surface vegetation, which is mostly available in their habitat. While the Florida manatee have a mouth opening oriented more downward, adapted for feeding on sea grasses. There are three species of manatee in the world. The West Indian manatee, that comprises two subspecies, the Florida manatee and the Caribbean manatee. You also have the Amazonian manatee, and then the African manatee in the area in green. African manatee live in both marine and fresh water. However, they prefer to spend time in fresh water because they have plenty of food there. The coastal water is very cloudy, so it doesn't allow the production of vegetation. So this African manatee the African manatee use the coastline mostly to travel between different habitats. So you see, this place is not a place that has been worked out by a bulldozer. It's just the manatee feeding ground. African manatee eat a lot. They can eat about 10% of their body weight daily, which is, by the way, very good for the environment because they help recycle the organic matter while fertilizing the water column and increasing the production of phytoplankton and the production of fish, which is good for the community. And by eating also a lot, they are controlling the proliferation of those invasive species like water hyacinth. Well, it seems like African manatee are not just herbivorous. We've been receiving complaints of fishermen throughout the distribution range of the species that manatee are stealing fish from their net and eat them. And other fishermen are claiming that manatee also eat clams. And there's one study that has already started confirming that, but we need more scientific investigation to confirm that manatee have an omnivorous diet. It's very difficult to live a life of a manatee. Imagine yourself being in a situation where there's a creature always chasing after you, trying to kill you just for your meat. That's what the African manatee live on a daily basis. They are hunted mostly for the meat. In fact, when I was doing my master, I interviewed the local fishermen, and 95% of them told me that manatee meat is excellent, so they love manatee meat. And they're hunting manatee with harpoon and fishing net, as you see in the picture. And this happened mostly at night. And the meat is sold in dark market. So it doesn't happen in the open air. What can happen is that the manatee might disappear without anybody knowing. The top picture on the right, you will see white dots. These are float of fishing nets. There are many, many of them, meaning that there are many layers of fishing net that are blocking this corridor of manatee, and it's also the feeding ground of manatee. And this increases the interaction between manatee and the human activity. And what will usually happen here is that either the manatee will get entangled in the fishing net if they are weak like calf, as you see on the background picture, or if the manatee is strong enough, they will destroy the net. And this will cause another issue. The fishermen will try to revenge by killing another manatee to pay off for the destroyed net. It's a very big issue. After documenting this threat during my master program in Cameroon, I realized that nothing was being done to protect these species. So I decided to create the first non-profit local organization dedicated to manatee conservation and other marine mammals. With my team, we are working with the local community and other stakeholders to put in place conservation strategy and mitigation strategy to give a better future to these animals. One of the activities we are putting in place is raising awareness. We are working with the young generation. You know, they have been taught that manatee is meat, and we are coming with a different message. We want them to perceive manatee as a friend. We want them to develop empathy for this animal, so that when they will become a big adult like their parents who are killing manatee now, they will not do the same thing. And we're using different opportunities to do that. So we're providing environmental education, but we also use a special event in the country. Like here on the picture on the picture on the right is the 20th of May, the Independence Day of Cameroon. There is a parade all over the country. So we use that opportunity to pass on conservation message. On the picture, you will see one of our young students in our education program parading with a manatee mascot. And some students are holding also a signboard with a manatee conservation message. People, the audience, the people, the local people are clapping, even the authority. So the message is passing on, and we are happy about that. 3 years ago, these two fishermen came to me and told me, Aristide, you guys take so much care of manatee than human being. I felt a little bit guilty about that because he was right. If you take care only of the animal without caring about the local community, the work will never be efficient. That's why we thought that it was important for us to put in place alternative livelihoods. We have been putting in place activities such as bee farming that will allow fishermen to have other source of income than fishing. And the less they will put effort in fishing, the safer will be the manatee because it will reduce the accidental catch. Despite all our enthusiasm and all the work we're doing on the field, if we don't have the science, it will not be easy for us to monitor the progress of our work. So we need also science in order to monitor our progress and to know how many manatee are there in the wild. That's why I'm very thankful to WCN's scholarship and other partners like the Fulbright, the University of Florida, and WCN, who gave me the opportunity to enter a PhD program at the University of Florida, which is, by the way, a top university in terms of manatee research. And in this picture, I was working with my supervisor, Dr. Bob Bundy, who was showing me how to handle a manatee safely. And within my PhD program, I'm doing something very cool. Remember I told you it's very difficult to see a manatee, right? And it's also very difficult to count them. But it's easy to see their poop or feces floating on the water. So with that feces, there is DNA in it, and I'm learning how to use that DNA from the feces in order to tell some story about an individual or population from different habitat. How are they related? And this is going to move the science and the conservation forward. What I learned here in the United States is not just for me. Every time I go back to Cameroon, I train my peers, the young enthusiast people from my country who want to do manatee study. I learn them how to do manatee research and manatee conservation. And the idea is that tomorrow we're going to have a big community of local scientists in Cameroon who will take forward the work that I've started. The African manatee distribution range is huge. It's almost the size of the United States coast. And there's only 5, and maybe less than 5 active African manatee researchers on the ground. So we need more of them. So that's why I need to train more people. African manatee needs your help. Right now, I'm only working in one community out of the hundreds of communities that are present in the area where manatee are distributed. So we need to scale up what we have started in Lake Osa. We need to continue educating the younger generation. We need to move the science to know better about these animals so that we can better strategize our conservation actions. Thank you very much for your attention.